You gotta click the other. It ain't gonna work.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the show that shares with you everything that should be done before saying I do. This is Before I Do, here live on the Couples Academy Network. Whether you are dating, single, engaged, don't know if you want to be married, or single, we are here to help you facilitate courageous conversations on dating and relationships.
Absolutely. And this show is meant to be interactive, and specifically tonight, because tonight's show, it is all about you. It is our Speak Now Q&A night. So we expect you to pose a question. Come on, y'all, challenge us. We are your practitioner. You have us literally for 30 minutes tonight to ask your questions. Any relationship questions you want. You can say, Charmaine, what do you do if your man always wants to feel on your behind? And I say, let him, girl, let him feel on your behind. So whatever question you want to propose, like, we are here for you. This is all about you. So pose your questions, put them out there, and we will be so happy and kind enough to respond.
One of my favorite nights, because we do get the chance to hear back from you all directly. And if you all have been following us over the past few weeks, we have been talking about rules of engagement. Our series this month has been all about proposals. And so we're talking about wedding proposals. So ironically, the questions that we have gotten so far have all been related to that topic. And so once again, if you have any questions, they don't necessarily have to be related to the topic that we've been covering over the past few weeks. Be sure to put them in the comments section, or if you have a comment in general, we want to hear from you. So be sure to put those in the comments. Now, the whole proposal conversation has been really interesting when we talk about the idea of should women propose, and what are some of the how to make an epic proposal. What have been some of your highlights from the conversation about proposing?
Well, highlights for me have been really just, first of all, one thing I learned, I didn't realize animal proposals were so huge. Okay, like I didn't realize that, people involve their animals as much as they do when they come to the proposal process. So that was some new information, and I absolutely loved the survey that we shared last week, and we only just tipped the iceberg of the survey about men who have been proposed to by their girlfriends. And so really hearing that they were open to being proposed to, they thought it was kind of cool. They want to experience that chivalry as well. But it was just eye-opening for me at the very end of that survey to hear that those same men don't want it done in public.
Absolutely.
So that was big for me.
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful too. I know one of the things that was interesting that I wasn't aware of, I didn't know that Leap Day was the official day where women propose. I had never heard of that. And so that's pretty fascinating. And obviously 2024 is a leap year. So I'll be curious to see how many women actually propose on that day. And they are expecting a record number of women to propose, as that number has doubled over the past 5 or 6 years, from 5 to 16%. And so they're expecting that to increase to around 20 to 25% for next year. So that's been really fascinating talking about that. Once again, you're tuned into Before I Do tonight. This is all about you. This is our Q&A Speak Now. So be sure to get your questions in. We're going to take a really brief commercial break to give you all the chance to post your comments and your questions. And we'll be right back with more Before I Do. Welcome back, everyone. You're tuned into Before I Do live on the Couples Academy Network. My name is Walter Jennings.
My name is Charmaine Jennings.
And we're your Couples Academy practitioners tonight. This is all about you. This is our Q&A Speak Now session. And so again, be sure to post your questions and comments in the chat. And we do have a couple of questions that came in earlier, and these are real questions from real people. And so we're going to go ahead and dive right in. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Now, this is a Charmaine special. What should you do if your potential spouse's family is not in favor of your proposal?
Yes, you know me well, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if your potential spouse's family is not in favor of your proposal,
Mm-hmm.
man,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, this is a powerful question because we hear it so often, right? Well, I'm not marrying my partner's family. I'm marrying my partner, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care what my partner's family says, right? And but I will tell you that the bottom line is you love your partner, but if your partner loves their family, you're going to need to build some stamina and some muscle to love your partner's family as well. And so, really, if I was proposed to, for example, and your family didn't like me, I really would probably hindsight, I would probably slow the relationship down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
so your family can get a chance to know me or whatever. Now, the reality of it is Walter, really, we went through this same situation when we were dating because he was like, I can't see myself marrying anyone that my mom doesn't love or like. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, well, what if your mama crazy? What if she just don't like me because she doesn't like me, right? Because she just doesn't want you to be with any woman. There are people on this earth like that. They just don't want their children to have any happy relationships outside of them. And then he was like, well, she's not like that. And so luckily I had a great experience, and my mother, she absolutely loves me. To we she treats me just like a daughter, and so we didn't have that issue. But it would be hard for me
Mm-hmm.
to say yes to a proposal where my partner's family absolutely didn't like me or despise me, because it does make for challenging relationships lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to treat our children?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to approach our children with that same dislike or disdain? And so that would be concerning for me. And I might say that we might need to date a little bit longer before we walk down the aisle to just at least, you know, see where this is going.
Yeah, I think it definitely warrants a serious, crucial conversation
Mm-hmm.
about with your potential spouse about some of the challenges that their family may have with you. I know that I would definitely have pause and concern if your family wasn't in agreement with you proposing with me proposing to you. I would want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely factor that in, because sometimes, as you mentioned, the family just may not necessarily want to see anyone married to that individual or have
Exactly.
a happy, fulfilling relationship outside of that family. Sometimes it can be personal. Sometimes it can be something that they see some things in you. They see some red flags and
That's right.
concerns that your potential spouse may not see.
Mm-hmm.
Love can sometimes be blind. And so there may be some genuine concerns and things there that do need to be addressed. We believe that it's important to have a village.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a good family, and for most individuals who value their family, that input, that insight, those individuals, they feel have their best interests in mind. So if they are not giving their approval, then there usually is some validity there. Now, with that being said, the marriage is between those two individuals.
Absolutely.
So you have to be careful of allowing a family's disapproval of you to serve as well, I cannot ask that person to marry me.
Absolutely.
But what I will say is that if you do decide to move forward with that proposal, it's important to make sure that you give full transparency to your partner about her family not being in agreement about that proposal, because they need to be aware that, hey, we've got some challenges that's ahead of us with you saying yes. And so it's a great opportunity from the very outset of your marriage and that process to say that we need to be yoked up on this thing, because your family was not necessarily in agreement with me making this proposal. And as you mentioned, Charmaine, about when it comes to having children,
Yes.
when it comes to certain decisions, when it comes to support in other ways in the marriage and relationship, you do want to be aware of that going into it.
Yeah, they will always circle back around and say, well, I didn't want you to marry her no way, or I didn't want you to marry him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so this can often be a point of, and then if you have conflict, which all relationships have conflict. And so the deeper the relationship, the deeper the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that conflict shows up, are they going to point you back to your spouse and encourage you guys to work it out? Or are they going to say, well, you shouldn't have married him anyway. You just need to walk out. And so those things matter. And so, yes, it really is important for the families to be on board. However, we do understand that there are some circumstances where families are just, they just really sometimes don't want you to be connected with anyone.
Absolutely. So regardless of what you decide, just make sure that you operate in transparency with your partner and your potential spouse about her family's support or the lack thereof, depending on what they decide. Now, next question is the relationship automatically over after a proposal rejection?
Stop the madness.
I'm just saying.
Stop the madness.
It's a real thing.
Okay, so I proposed to you. And you were like, no, thank you.
Yeah. So
and
now
we're supposed to have a relationship after that.
Now listen, 1 in 4 proposals will get a negative, will get a rejection. So statistics say that 1 in 4 proposals will be rejected. Now, statistics also say that there are 15% of women experience being proposed to a second time, and 8% report being proposed to multiple times. Exactly. Now, I will share that I will not be in the 15 and the 8%. Now, again, but I know we're joking, but the point is that if the goal is marriage and you're saying no, then at the very least, that is the time for a deeper conversation about exactly where we are and what are we doing. And if I am not the person for you, and it's not something that I see that is viable as far as with me changing, then it definitely is it's time for us to move on, because dating just to date, if that's what you want, then get it how you live. But the point is, if you're dating to marry and you've issued a proposal that has been rejected, then it may be time to move on.
Well, first, and we'll also say too that shouldn't have come as a shock. Right? Usually when people decide that they're ready to make that proposal, we hope that there would have been at least some nudges, some hints, some conversations about future forward. What is it that we both want? Are we committed to being lifelong partners? And so hopefully these were some conversations that occurred before the proposal. So if there's a no, there was a serious breakdown in communication, first of all. And I smiled a little bit earlier because Walter is extra sensitive about this. He will tell you, like, he only gonna propose to a person one time.
I'm out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And after that, he was like, hey, that's your loss. I know my worth.
Absolutely.
I'm out. Okay. So he's definitely that dude that was like, hey, I know my worth. Okay. You say no, you better be sure.
Yeah,
because I'm not giving you a second chance.
Yeah, this is not an audition. This is, because we're talking about marriage and a relationship. So this is an evaluation on both parts, right? So even with the good company, right? You get an evaluation, but a good company, they actually allow you to give feedback on your boss as well. So it's a two-way street. So this is not a me auditioning for you and I'm trying to get it right so she'll say yes. And again, for anybody but that's not me. When I know that, again, we put the work in, we have had conversations, and there's a connection there. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't expecting a yes. And if I'm getting a no, then that's probably a sign that it's time to move on. And
just know too that when even we're counseling couples, we have this expression where we ask them the question, do you want a love story or do you want a life story? Okay. We believe in helping couples really formulate a life story, meaning when you ask and you say yes, you're asking this person to share their life with you, right? I mean, we are going to evolve. We're going to go into, you're going to see the next few decades of my life. Like, you're going to share that with me. We're going to go through some ups and downs and all kinds of things that life brings at us. We're sharing life together. We want to build and create long-lasting memories. And so when I ask you, I'm not just saying, hey, well, can we go half on some bills, and have some good memories and experiences? No, I'm sharing my life with you. You're going to have power of attorney over me. And so, again, we take that very seriously.
Absolutely. But either way, it is the opportunity for you to evaluate your relationship at that juncture to see even if there is a way to move forward. But obviously, there can be some significant red flags that listen, you've got some habits and some things that you're involved in that I absolutely can't be a part of long term. but those things should be addressed before you even ideally get to the proposal phase.
Absolutely.
All right. So one more question. So why is this is all men probably want to know the answer to this question. Why is there so much emphasis put on the ring? Isn't that somewhat materialistic? And I think they mean possibly, and possibly a red flag.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to know why is the ring such a big deal in a proposal?
Okay, so obviously, I will not speak for all women or for all individuals who the ring is a big, because some men the ring is a big deal. We've had couples and clients where the men, they were at the jewelry store wanting the big diamond and baguettes and all of these things. So it's not just a gender thing where women are all about the ring. Sometimes men are all about the ring as well. But I think the ring, one, we know it's symbolic. It's on the finger, where there is, and you can be a little bit more strategic. But the ring, it is something that literally every time you look down at your hand, it is a symbol of your relationship. It's a symbol of your love. And so a lot of times I think individuals, it's not about the price tag, but it is about how much does this ring say about who I am, right? How much does my partner really know about me? But also, what do I want to see when I look down and see this symbol of our love and our life and our relationship that we're building? I think for women, the pressure can be there because as soon as you say you're engaged and you're getting married, what's the first thing other women do? They look down, they want to see the ring. And they're examining it, and you're looking at their body language. And not that you're looking for their approval, but let's be honest, they have opinions, okay? And they're going to share their opinion, And so, and some people are rude. Like, they'll take their phone out and they're like zooming in. I think there's a diamond in there. And I mean, people can be so rude. So I think, unfortunately, in our Western world, there's been so much emphasis on the ring because some of it's commercialism. Let's be honest. Jewelry stores need to sell jewelry, right? And it really is an American thing where the ring is a big deal because back in the day, people just got bands, and that was fine.
Yeah, and it seems that way. And so just to, again, play the other side, the average cost of a ring is $5,000. So the average cost of an engagement ring is $5,000. So one might argue and say, couldn't you take that $5,000 and use it as towards down payment on a home or anything? And so,
or pay for your wedding. Some people, they can spend $5,000 and pay for their entire wedding.
Exactly.
Right?
So, it's that question. For me, I don't have a problem with an engagement ring. What I do have a problem with is the price tag, is all the things you mentioned as far as the being particular and peculiar about a certain ring. It has to be this much, it got to be at least,
white gold,
it got to be VVS diamond, just all of these different, and there's nothing wrong with having aspirations. But when you have an expectation and that's tied to a proposal, when we're talking about spending a life together, that is a concern, because the question then becomes, when we get into the marriage and we fall on hard times, if I'm not able to provide financially some of the things that you may be used to, will that cause you to then have, an eye that is, turned somewhere else just because I'm experiencing hard times financially?
Wait a minute now.
So I'm just saying.
You experience these hard financial times. I ain't gonna wake up in the morning and my ring off the finger, right?
I mean,
gonna come up missing.
What I'm saying is, if we get to a place to where the ring is never anything like that. No, not at all. But again, because we're talking about the proposal process. Right, so this whole premise that I need to save up $5,000-$10,000 for a wedding ring. I just may have, what if I can find a nice ring for $3,000-$4,000? And you like the ring until you found out how much it costs. So, there are just some concerns there when it comes to how much emphasis is put on the ring. Yeah. And if the focus is really on being materialistic as much as it is towards the actual marriage and our partnership and our relationship.
Yeah, I will say that too, for a different type of personality type, I will admit, my mindset goes here. It's important to know, first of all, that you're valued, right? And the ring doesn't obviously equate to your value in the relationship. But I will tell you this. There are some individuals who they literally would put thousands of dollars into their car, their clothes, and and then they will try to be cheap when it comes to buying a ring that their partner has to look at forever, right? And you want to be cheap about that. And I think that, yeah, for those individuals, I do think that they do get called out on social media, and they get called out because, again, you will invest in yourself and you will buy yourself the top of the line quality, this, that, and whatever. But when it comes to your significant others, you want to, you definitely want to cut corners and be cheap about it. So just make sure that, love your partner and shower them in the same way that you really care for yourself. And that's really, really, really important.
Yep. Shout out to Nina from Palm Beach. Nina says, knowing that your partner will work and save to buy a nice ring is a good sign.
Absolutely.
And everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody wants to feel, as you mentioned, appreciated. And again, that I love you more than I love my rims. That I love you more than I love my outfits and my nice hats and shoes and clothes. And so the ring does provide us the opportunity to show our love for our partner and showing that we do value them. Hey, everybody, you're tuned into Before I Do. This is our Speak Now Q&A night. Be sure to get your questions and comments in the chat, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more Before I Do. Welcome back to Before I Do. Tonight is our Speak Now Q&A night, and we are getting some questions about our recent conversations on epic proposals, and we're talking about rules of engagement. And so once again, Nina chimed in. She says, what if the partner buys a smaller ring with the promise of a larger ring in the future?
Oh, I think this is a common thing that really happens too, because sometimes couples, when depending on the phase of your relationship, right, if finances are tight and or you two have both prioritized maybe children or buying real estate, or maybe we're saving, or maybe we're both in college, or and so right now really your budgets aren't, because some of these magazines, bride magazines, will say, oh, your engagement ring should cost about 6 months of your salary. And so that's someone's opinion. So the bottom line is, when it comes to money matters in a relationship, we always encourage our clients to make sure that you are investing in the rings and according to your budget. So set a budget, and you can always upgrade. I mean, to be honest, my wedding ring today is a lot nicer than the one that I received 20 something years ago. He want me to show it out, yeah. So it's bigger. I have big hands as a woman. I have big hands, and so my ring is bigger. So I did get an upgrade, and I think that's great, and it's funny because he kind of downgraded his ring. His ring was big, and he kind of wanted a smaller, more sleek fit ring. And so I think it's okay if there's a promise that you'll upgrade later, because a lot of times earlier in a relationship, you want to be financially mindful.
Absolutely. And it is important to circle back around to that. I think that it's important to be mindful of how those conversations are brought up. You don't want to be contentious, but you do want it to be something that, if it's important to you, that you continue to raise it in a way to where it sets it as a priority for you in the relationship. Now, this actually ties into our next question. This person says, my husband and I have actually been married for years. Everything is fine, but when reflecting upon his proposal those many years ago, it left much to be desired. Is it too late to discuss it? And absolutely not. And so a lot of times, again, when an individual proposes to their spouse, they may not necessarily have had the funds or the resources to really propose in the way that they would have liked to do it. And so it is easy to get caught up with life when you start building a life together, when you start having children or working your professional job and building a home. It's easy to forget about that because you're in the midst of the marriage. But if that is something that is important and valuable to you, it's important that you have that conversation about it, because when it comes to those milestone marriage anniversaries, when you get to the 20 years and the 25 years, or it may be the year 11. But the point is that if it's something that is valuable to you, whether it's a ring, whether it is the way the proposal was done, allow your spouse the opportunity to come back around and to address that. Don't allow it to be something that seeds inside of you and you don't address if it is something that means that much to you.
And I will say, though, too, we need to be mindful in relationships about using certain words. And so to promise, when you promise, right, it's the same thing that you stood up there and you promised and vowed to love and cherish your spouse, right? To death do you part. When you promise, when you make a promise, your partner doesn't want to feel like they have to come back and audit you. You remember the promise you made? You remember the promise you made? Like, they don't want to feel like they're the auditor and that they're going to come circle back around and make sure you remember the promise you made. And so be very mindful when you make a promise. Your partner doesn't want to have to be put in that position to mother that, to nurture that, to remind you of that. Be a person of your word. And so if that is a goal, make it a long-term goal every year. Make sure every 6 months you have a saving account where you are just ready to do what it is that you say that you're going to do. Don't wait for a chunk of money to fall off the sky. Just make sure that you are intentional. If you promise to upgrade that ring, because the one thing a partner does not want to do is have to remind you of your promises, because again, it doesn't even feel good by the time I get the very thing you said you promised you were going to do. I don't know how I can receive it at this point.
Now, there is an art and a balance to it, though, because again, as you're doing life, sometimes you just forget.
This is
true.
And
so what I will say is that as a spouse, you can be subtle and drop certain hints. I know you were really good about that when it came to talking about your ring.
No, I don't think I dropped hints. I was pretty direct. I was like, look, we coming up on 10. Okay, what's up?
So
you were like, nah.
Now she didn't get to determine when the upgrade would happen, but the upgrade was always in mind. But to Charmaine's point, if you are again the spouse like that has made that promise, you do want to be a person of your word. That is so important. But also too, if you are the spouse and you value certain things, you want to make sure that your spouse and your partner know how much it means to you, but do so in a way that, again, that's not going to be divisive, that is not going to be combative, but that is going to serve to really support your relationship. All right, our last question for the night, and it's very simple. So they said yes. Now what?
Ooh.
Yeah. So now, what do we do after they say yes?
You need to be able to say we did before I do.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the we did part is you need to reach out to Couples Academy.
Yes.
Okay. You got the ring. We had the moment. It's we're excited. You want to establish a strong foundation before walking down the altar. Are you familiar with your partner's past? Potential areas of trauma, their family, how their families function, what culture are they taking or that they are leaving that they pretty much learned from their foundational family? How will that impact your family as you're building something together? Do you want a family? Do you even want children, right? Where will you guys live? How much money do you guys plan to make? There's so many things to talk about. And there's always couples who feel like, we've already talked about all of that. We know each other. Can you ever really know a person? We are all evolving. And so premarital counseling, the power of it is really being able to gain strategies so that you can have stamina, you can have strategies and structure, right, for being able to navigate some of those challenging conversations, the challenges that are going to come up in life, just it's just a natural thing, those natural things, and really just being able to know how to push in more with each other to hold on to each other and to fight together against the different challenges that come up and not fighting each other.
So the average engagement process is about 15 months. So you're talking about a year and 3 months. And part of the reason why people focus on that time is because it allows them to plan for the wedding, which there's nothing wrong with that. But what we always like to advocate to couples is that it's important that you plan for your marriage.
Yes.
So while you are planning and preparing for the wedding, which we absolutely believe that you should celebrate your union, it is so imperative that you prepare for your marriage with premarital counseling. Now, 15% of couples who actually are proposed and engaged to be married will not make it down the aisle because of various issues or things that will come up in the relationship. And so what premarital counseling allows you to do is it allows you to help mitigate those conversations and those issues so that you can make a good informed decision and that you don't go into the marriage without strategies and without understanding exactly who you are getting into a relationship with.
Absolutely. And to be honest, planning a wedding is one of the biggest events that the two of you will plan in your lives. And it is often the first huge event that you plan together. It's multi-layered, multifaceted. It involves so many people, managing people. And so we are your professionals and we support that process. But it really helps when you have that guidance. A lot of arguments, and again, those 15 couples that don't make it to the wedding, a lot of times it's because they wind up arguing and getting into big financial conflicts in the planning part of the wedding. And the wedding is just an event.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things that are addressed in the process of planning the wedding are some of the primary focus areas when we talk about premarital counseling. When you talk about finances, when you talk about your cultural marinade, as our CEO Danielle Pettiford likes to say, we call it your foundational family. All of those various things, they come to a head when you're planning a wedding. And so in addition to again, planning those things, you need strategies because those are things that are going to continue to be pervasive within your marriage and your relationship. Hey, you guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Before I Do. This has been our Speak Now Q&A night. Be sure to book us for a session. Couplesacademy.org is the place where you will go. Charmaine and I do both individual and couples counseling, and our specialty is premarital. And at the very least, continue to tune in every single Wednesday evening at 9:30 p.m. right here on the Couples Academy Network for Before I Do. And listen, show somebody you love them by telling them about this show. If it's beneficial to you and you're enjoying it, be sure to help spread the word. My name is Walter Jennings.
My name is Charmaine Jennings.
We are your Couples Academy practitioners. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. Good night, everyone.